Are we record? Oh yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, I never know when it's recording.
Okay, y'all, it is Tuesday. You know what's the best part about Tuesday? That tomorrow's Wednesday. That's Tuesday. All right. Welcome to our ILT vision planning meeting. This meeting is one of two parts, and in this first part, we're really going to get into our instructional data management systems. Thank you everyone for doing your pre-work. I was the last one to do it, but hey, we all did it before the meeting, so I'm really excited for us to dig into some of our thoughts in what went really well with ILT this year. We got into our stride, got into our rhythm at points throughout the year, but let's think about like, how do we make that the rhythm for next year all the time? Please make sure that you're on the vision meetings tab in our vision meeting or vision setting workbook. I also have it screen shared there, so if you want to follow along on the screen to see like what I'm typing as we're processing in the moment, you can. But first, hello ILT. I want us, before we dig into this, to think about what are you most proud of from what you've seen students producing during NWEA and SBAC. I'll give you a second to think. What are you most proud of in terms of what students are producing for NWEA and SBAC?
I can go first.
Yeah.
For NWEA, I think for me, because I don't do SBAC, because look for everybody else. For NWEA, I'm well done. It was nice to be inside the classroom, kind of motivating kids and seeing like how they were doing. And I think one specifically was Logan in first grade, because I remember I had a pep talk with him because he likes to rush his test, and like ELA, he didn't meet his goal, but he grew. And I told him, I was like, see what happens when we take our time and really focus. He's like, it feels good. And I was like, yeah. So do the same thing for math. And sure enough, he met his math goal. So he was super excited. I didn't even look for him. He ran and found me like in the hallway and was so excited to tell me that he met his goal. So it was nice to see like the student investment in their own work and like and being proud of their own accomplishments.
And we got to 100% in most grades if kids were here.
I'm going to speak to NWA as well. We've seen too much of SBAC, but I think it's something I'm genuinely proud of. Almost all of our kids very much used up their scratch paper, like got a few extras. They advocated for themselves. Like some of them were like, "Hey, I finished both sides of my scratch paper. Can I get another mint and a scratch paper?"
They're very invested.
Not the kids. It's too spicy.
Or scratch paper and maybe extrinsic motivation. Alexis.
I think for me, it's been on SBAC, seeing that like the vast majority of students are like actually using their scratch paper and asking for more and using the strategies that they've been taught. And I think it is like with TPU, there was a lot of like the extrinsic motivation piece of like, I'm going to stamp your paper, I'm going to give you tickets, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you that. But like, it shows that most of our students did like deeply internalize those habits, and they might not be doing it like to the T of how we taught them, but they understand the importance of like, I need to take notes on what I'm reading. I need to think through the question. I need to like evaluate each answer choice. And I think even some students who were like struggling to engage during TPU or like losing motivation, like reinvested and are using their scratch paper. So it's been really great to see, especially when like the kids you might not expect are the ones asking for more scratch paper.
Does any like one student come to mind?
Who was it? There was someone who kept asking for more scratch paper, but I can't remember who it was. All the testing days are blurring together from NWEA to SBAC. I think seeing on NWEA Alexander Quinn using so much scratch paper.
Can I tell you?
He was just copying things, but he was using scratch paper.
That's how it goes. Can I tell you one that you and I were both there for that like was really like it was a moment for me that really stood out when we had Santiago in that small group setting, and he asked in third grade Pirates when he asked for an extra sheet of scratch paper, and he like actually had it filled up, and not just like filled up with like you know,
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
letters. But he did it really intentionally, like using his SRP with purpose.
Mhm.
Mine is very related to yours, Driggs. As coaches, like we always wonder sometimes during like the TPU, the pre-testing season, like, is all of this done in vain? And then like actually seeing what kids are producing tells us it's not. Like it truly is worth it. And I saw in math aspect. A hard time talking and typing. Kids were like using their strategies, but not just for the sake of using their strategies. They were like kind of cherry picking, like, oh, that one's going to help me, or that one's not going to help me. One that I thought they might use just because they had been exposed to it so much, they didn't. So I thought I saw stamina.
Yeah.
Kids' stamina was strong throughout SBAC. I know we're still in the thick of SBAC, but it's been strong so far in this week and a half. Because they, I think, have internalized how to pace themselves.
Yeah.
And not burn out.
Yeah.
Thanks. I did not set a timer for this, even though I will for the rest of the meeting. I want to make sure that we're really intentional with our time. We're not married to these, minutes on here for each of the things. I just want us to be mindful so that we can get to our ultimate goal. And we have like two big goals for all of our ILT vision setting here. The first one is setting sustainable ILT structures, things that we can actually do week over week. The second goal, and it's the big goal, it's our WIG, if you will, the wildly important one, is that we are increasing teachers' instructional skill and we're increasing student mastery in every space week over week. That is our vision. And we want to be able to do these things rooted in student work analysis. And so the reason why I had us reflect on like, what are all the big wins we've seen during testing is because we've been so maniacally aware of like, what are kids producing during NWA? What are they doing during SBAC? And we need to bring that same level of awareness every single day next year, not just during TPU, in order to reach the outcomes that we have set. You can see here at the bottom of our time together, we have like the ILT action cycle, if you will, and that's what I'm branding our like weekly cadence that we got into the rhythm of, but we are going to like really iron out during this time of what needs to happen before school, during school, after school, and what are like hard deadlines Monday through Friday as an ILT, so that we're holding ourselves accountable, teachers accountable, and following through with all the things. Any questions, clarifying things, thoughts around like our big goals, sustainable structures and increasing skill and outcomes? Let's dig into the pre-work. I have two thinking jobs as you dig into the pre-work. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer for us and see how far we get. And those two thinking jobs are what resonates with you most in the pre-work from the other responses, and what connections or themes you see coming alive like across all of our thoughts. The ask is that in these 5 minutes, we are all individually reflecting on the ILT management pre-work tab. And whatever resonates most or whatever themes that you see coming alive, tag them with your initials there, like I have in the next steps column. Kat, what are we doing in the next 5 minutes?
We are silently looking at the ILT management pre-work to see what themes that we notice and what we align with, and tagging our initials into.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
So if you see like, oh, Alexis is there on part 1, I really agree with that. I'm going to put my initials by it. Let's say that Vlad also really agrees. Yeah, in the box next to it. Vlad really agrees so that we can identify like what are trends, like things that are like really big wins for us, really big gaps that we all are aligned in, or like what are opportunities that we're like, yep, that's what we need to do next year.
Makes sense, thank you.
So it shakes out to about 90-ish seconds for each one of these big buckets. So our ILT walk through meeting cadence and structures, school-wide focus, and then PD and CPT systems. So 5 minutes, use your initials to like tag those statements that really resonate with you. Let's Okay. We have about 2.5 minutes left. Show me on your fingers, like how many more minutes feel right? Like 2, 1, there already. I actually don't think they're-
I'm refreshing what is business. Still for- okay.
With the remaining minute and a half that we have, what are reflections that we have after looking at everyone else's thinking around our kind of bigger systems, our cadence, our school-wide focus, our PD, CBT, SSO?
I think I added a note to one of Vlad's comments under school-wide focus area. That I think a lot of what we do focuses on like 17 teachers, but it's not always applicable, or like we need to do more to think about and like explain how it's applicable to like ISE, to ILSs, to ECCs, where you might not be in this traditional classroom role, but the school-wide focus area and PD topics, whatever it may be, like some teachers who are not classroom teachers can figure it out, but some do need more guidance on like how does this actually apply to me in my role.
Actually want to take that and kind of shout out Vlad when we did have the really great, when we were super consistent with the school-wide focus around like, what is it that we're learning and like what skill are we applying? And Vlad actually went out to PE.
Yeah.
And you asked some of the students at PE, like, what are you learning? And we actually got really great insight. They're actually like learning really critical skills around like collaboration, turn taking, sharing, etc. It was kind of like an aha moment for me when you did that during our student interview. 20 more seconds. Other things.
In general, I see a trend of we really appreciate alignment, and also a trend of almost all of us saying like we want to pre-plan this so that it feels like we have a more not necessarily like the weekly focus is group plan, but like if an overwhelming march for the year, then we know where we should be and what we want to see.
No, I agree.
You had something, I was like, what?
No, I completely agree. I think when I feel like we are the most successful, I think one is having the PD scope and sequence, like that was created at the beginning of the school, I think thanks to Driggs. With having that in place helped us like what like, it was like our beacon, like when we didn't know what was happening, like, oh, it's already in there, we know what's happening. And it helped us, it allowed us to adjust in the moment if we needed to move things around because we could visually see, oh, we have that, yeah, we have enough time to move XYZ over the next week to focus on something that maybe got thrown on us that we had to somehow do in the moment or react to that may have not been in our line of sight. So it gave us that flexibility without losing track of the things that we must do, we plan to do.
I'm gonna kind of like tie in all of these thoughts together. Yes, and the word that I want to like take out of what you said was react, and like ILT felt so reactive this year.
Yeah.
And it felt like it's like what's an SSM? It felt like we were just kind of like we were playing catch up so many times, and like for both of your points in the original idea you said, Driggs, like we couldn't even think about like how are we going to incorporate ILSs, ACCs, ISC, et cetera, into this like school-wide focus because it did feel like so reactive to like gaps that we were seeing in the classroom, as opposed to like what we want to see kids, like how we want to see kids operating academically. That's a really great segue into, if you go back to the vision meetings tab, or you can follow along on the screen, whatever floats your boat. Please don't talk about yellow submarine.
You said it, not
You
him.
said
I know. You know that I love a good start, stop, continue, but for it to actually like flow well with the mind, we want to think about in terms of our ILT walkthrough and meeting cadence and structures. Reminder, we had them Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, we did.
What do we want to continue? Like, what was really effective? What do we want to stop? Like that just actually didn't hit the mark? Or what do we want to start doing based on some of the opportunities that we already started thinking? So I encourage you to have the pre-work actually open as we engage in like, what do we want to continue doing that was effective? What do we just chop off, and then what do we want to start? We can actually, let's start with what we want to continue. And then after that, let's kind of do a little stop start tag team. I'm going to set first 6 minutes on and see how far we get and see how the time feels. What do we want to continue?
I think for me, first comes to mind is just IoT alignment on everything. Like it's been like the foundation for us to move forward with school-wide focus area, any IoT walkthroughs, things like that. I think just overall alignment on everything that has to do with IoT. I think that helped guide us with what is our school-wide focus for the week, what are we going to look out for when we do our walkthrough, and just having those things set in place. So for me, it helped me hone my eye into different things when I'm not just within IoT, but it helped me guide my coaching with my teacher too, to like illuminate things that, oh, maybe I didn't think about that. So it was helpful to have that initial just alignment to kind of guide us.
I appreciate it's not just alignment of what is it that we're looking for or what we're doing as an ILT, like we actually like understand the why we're doing it. I appreciate that one there.
I think too with the Monday ILTs, when we were able to do like the walkthrough component of it and like get into like spaces of teachers we don't coach and align on like what we're seeing and any potential trends and next steps. And then also like, I guess this goes into like maybe start, but also partly continue is like leaving love notes and feedback from people who are not the coach. Because I think that again like increases the visibility of the alignment.
Actually, yeah, in part of your pre-work, you start talking about that. You want to speak to that more?
Yeah, so I think we've done this in the past, and I appreciate this with providing feedback to teachers who is not their coach. So I think that builds alignment as a ILT to staff and saying, not just my coach thinks I need to do this, but actually the entire ILT are aligned in like, just maybe my coaching goal or the school-wide focus or whatever it is. I think it's nice to, I would assume it's nice to hear from somebody else who's not just your coach and say like, oh, I am doing a good job. Like, this feels nice.
And I think too, that kind of sets the expectation of I can receive feedback from
Yeah.
anyone. And I think like
Yeah.
hearing you say that connects to like the co-coaching Reese and I did with DELT all
Mhm.
year. Is it's like it got to the point where people you coach would see me walk in and be like, don't worry, I'm gonna do DELT. And like they knew to expect the feedback about it. And like Taylor still sends me her DELT lesson plans every week. So it's like it sets the expectation of like I can receive feedback from anybody about anything. And I know like ultimately we want to get to a place where staff can do that too. So like if we set that through those walkthroughs, we can also do it beyond the walkthroughs.
Yeah, because I think it eliminates that silo of like,
Mhm.
I'm only listening to my coach because they are my coach. No, it actually can be if I happen to walk by, like in any classroom where I can notice maybe you need a little bit of support, I can easily walk into that space and they're not like feeling like, wait, why are you in here? Why are you talking to me? They feel comfortable around any single one of us walking into their space and like providing any support if we need it.
And then it pushes teachers to grow faster because then it doesn't need to wait for like, I saw Miss Taylor do this.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, I'll talk about it in our one-to-one, but our one-to-one's not for 3 more days. But it's like those quick in the moment things.
I love that you like named, this is the impact on us when we do this. This is the impact on teachers when we do this. What's the impact on kids or achievement when we're co-coaching in all these spaces? What do you think?
They're benefiting from well-rounded feedback that comes from years of experience or different contexts. So like providing feedback potentially for upper grades that might be beneficial from someone who mostly teaches younger grades, where you might have a lot more context on phonics, where like actually benefits that classroom. You implement more like universal design, designs for learning strategies that might not be as exposed to because they predominantly deal with like upper.
Glad nailed it. Thanks.
This doesn't fit into start, stop, or continue, but something I want to resurrect that used to be really big
So you want
is
to start?
restart. I want to have like very clear rubrics that we can share with teachers because like it does show clear alignment across the board.
Oh yeah.
I agree. Before I came to Spark, we use in ILT, we use a host of rubrics and we never share them with teachers. And I don't know that I even ever thought to, but why not? Like, don't hide the ball.
Yeah.
That's
So-
like, I think like we have the core block look fors, but that's a checklist, not a rubric. And so I think I've talked to Zach a little bit about it, but like I've gotten some good rubrics through what I did with TFA that I think we can like take and either use or like modify and adjust that are focused both on like instructional strategies, but also content knowledge and teacher content mastery.
The love notes can have the rubric incorporated.
Something IAC used to do really well when we were teaching LOI, we would have the rubrics that would divide the teachers into like level 1, 2, or 3.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And it was really helpful to be able to like literally just pull those up and say like, look, let's set your trajectory. Like we want you to be a level 2 by month, by like the end of next month.
Yeah.
Here's like very specific things like you need to do that I'm not necessarily gonna have to coach you on every single one, but like you as a teacher get to see them and like have your own ownership over like basically what you develop.
So I'm hearing like leaving actionable bite-sized next steps for each person, like toward that goal. So that was 6 minutes. We do need some more time because what we have determined is we love our Monday walkthrough in alignment. One thing that we haven't put any stops on here, but I'm going to put one on here that I am also guilty of. When we do the walkthrough and we make an excuse for why we don't go into the teacher's space. I did it many times with Carlos, like, oh, they have a flex day, or like, oh, but we need to just stop that and we go in there anyway, because every minute not used for learning and every minute not used for intentional targeted instruction is a minute lost. We're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it though, for sure.
No one popped into my head, like, we were like, oh, did you dance break with me? No, we need to learn.
Going in to co-coach. I'm gonna put 4 more minutes on. And I want us in these next 4 minutes to think about what are we going to continue, stop, or start? Not with the walkthrough, because we love it, we're gonna keep it. But our meeting cadence and structures for the other ILT things, like the more administrative things and getting ready for Thursday meetings. Was that clear or?
Yes,
I was ready.
no more Monday ILT, and no more talking about Monday ILT, now we're talking about other ILT.
We can come back to it, but I want to make sure that we're stamping like what is our. I'm gonna pause this for a second. The way that we spend our time together is sacred. And so I want to make sure that whatever we are calendaring for next year, it has a vision for what that time looks like every Monday, not Sunday, not Sunday, but like each of the days that we are together as an ILT, what does it look like? Because it has to have a purpose, or else it doesn't.
Okay, I was thinking continuing with one calendar review and making sure that we have everything covered for every single day of the week and even the upcoming Monday. So nothing is a surprise to us. Everything from like IEP meetings to thinking about any upcoming PTOs, like that's really helpful because I think sometimes we get stuck on just the teachers we coach. So I know like the PTOs my teachers have, but I may not know elsewhere and how does that impact the greater good of the campus. Also want to continue preparing for PDs and like having that time set aside to create the deck together and assign like everybody's part in it. That way it's not just one person delivering the PD or the staff meeting, whatever it is. I think when we each take a part in it, it allows us to show visibly that unity that we do have.
I'm even thinking like in order for us to like not be reactive and scrambling next year, that doesn't happen on a Thursday or a Wednesday even.
Yeah.
So wondering, and I don't know if like time-wise, if it's possible, more person to start, like of having a facilitated work or pre-work time. It's like we're walking for the next 10 minutes and we have like a list of things we have to get through, which is like on your own, like make sure like interpreters are requested for IEPs, subs are requested, things we don't necessarily have to discuss, but it's like a protected time and it's like almost have a checklist of like, this is the things I need to do every week and I just need to make sure they're done.
We reserve like the last 10 minutes of ILT for that. So then it's like, what were all of your next steps from the ILT meeting? I think that's a start is like have a place to capture next steps and owners. But then at the last 10 minutes of ILT, it's like, okay, we've got 10 more minutes, do the things you can do now or like put the system into place that you need to get the other things done. Calendar your reminders, like whatever you need to do.
Anytime to add on to that in terms of, I know it's walkthrough related, but within alignment with where you're talking about, like any pre-work, like if I know in advance, for example, which teachers of mine are we're gonna go see, it helps me reground of like what lesson they're teaching specifically. That way, if we need to pull anything up ahead of time, like personally, I would like to have that moment just so I feel prepared in it, even though yes, I know what they should be teaching, but there's a lot of teachers. What will I ever look into?
Here's what I think I'm hearing from everyone. It's like we actually need to spend more time together on Monday than an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's a walkthrough component, there's like an alignment component, doing the things that you need to do on like a weekly level, such as like reviewing the content week ahead, doing the upcoming calendaring that we do for like IP coverage, etc. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so, because I feel like that sets us up for better success throughout the week, and we're not reactive on the Thursday. Like, let's scramble to create the PD deck. Like, we already kind of have things mapped mapped out, so we know like more or less like how to, it's, I think Thursday should then be just more treated of like, okay, let's review what we're sharing for step.
Start looking ahead to next week.
Yeah.
Of like, how have we progressed with our school-wide focus area this week? Like, are we ready to move on to the next one? Do we need to spend more time on this one? Like, are there teachers who we need to prepare to intensively coach on it next week?
I have two thoughts. Can I push both of your thinkings a little bit? So I agree we need more time on Monday. And the reason or like the purpose that you gave was kind of like, so we're not scrambling by Thursday. I think also to push your thing is like, what are we, like, the reason that we do this is to drive towards student outcomes and achievement and teacher skill and development. Like, what is going to be the impact of us spending more time together on kids? That's my push there. And my other push is like, what is it that we're using as like the metric for success? Like, we are ready to move to that next thing the next week. That answer is student work analysis. Or that is the litmus test or whatever.
Like
that
our,
we
it's
use.
when we went and interviewed students, did the 80%
Yeah.
say, yeah. So then Thursday could be the, like, we have that data gathered. Like, have we met the goal, or are we ready to move on, or did we not meet the goal? And what do we need to do to get there?
Do you have anything that you want to add there? Anything you want to like throw into the conversation or the planning from like through an IC lens?
Honestly, I think like IC needs to follow the same cadence, right? Like when we do our walkthrough, like we should ask IC students the exact same questions, and like we should look at the exact same data because the feedback should be coming from all of us as well. So I think,
So it sounds like then maybe from our Monday meeting that is like longer, there are next steps that we do individually to, or like and you either like bring the student work or like you do the student interviews to Thursday. And Thursday planning is like, we're literally, it's just like heads down planning time, like reviewing the student work, seeing if we're ready to move on to the next thing. But that's like a next week thing. That's not like a today, this Thursday thing. We can present the data today, this Thursday,
Yeah.
but the development is not based on
until
what we're
the-
doing in
yeah,
that analysis.
I think it just guides
That's
us
more
on
the
like,
getting ahead, like that's the starting to prepare for next week. So it's like
Yeah.
we set the school-wide focus area, we did the PD on it, we've been coaching teachers on it. Now this is like our measure of mastery. Did we master it? Yes, let's move on. Yes, some teachers did, but like the PD you led, what percent of our teachers mastered this goal? Are we ready to move on, or do we need to come back and do it again and clarify? But then it gives us like that preparation for next week. So, you know, going into next week, like on our walkthrough, we are going to be coaching intensively. Like, let's choose the teachers we want to go and do on that walkthrough because they did not meet this goal. Or let's say we did meet the goal and like we were ready to start coaching teachers on the next goal.
yeah, I was gonna say exactly what Drix was saying about, I think Thursday allows us to say, set us up for success on Monday in our walkthrough. So on Monday morning, it's no longer, okay, so what should we look for? Who should we go to? By the end of our meeting on Thursday,
already
we
know
already
who we need to
know we
see.
need to go see. And I think it allows us, like, for me, like what you're saying earlier, like, I can now drive that with my teachers to set them up for better success throughout the entire week for kids to be successful and get that right of instruction that they need or that they deserve. So at the end of Thursday, we're ready to go for Monday.
So on Thursday, then we actually identified, we put into our walkthrough agenda who we're seeing on
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't even like,
No, so
Yeah.
Monday we roll up,
We
like, okay,
know, we
let's
don't
go
even have
see,
to
instead
say
of
who we're
spending
with.
that time. Saying that's part of the time we sit, and like, who should we see right now and set the
I
time.
like it. I like it.
Thursday, we set it based on the data that we did collect. Okay, say we saw, I don't know, Amy, Ray, and Taylor. Just throwing it out there. This is popped into my head, I don't know. But say we
The
see.
spaces where we went the most.
Say
Yeah.
we saw them, right? And it's like, okay, you know what? Taylor's actually meeting the mark that we set out for her to do. Like, she is following through on this school by focus area that we're trying to drive towards, and kids are meeting those goals.
Mhm.
But you know what? Amy's is like a step behind, so she still needs a little bit more push where kids aren't fully saying the things and are fully acting on the things that our goal is, I'm gonna keep Amy for the next coming Monday. So that would be Thursday based on the data we collected. Or the student interviews that we collected, like, okay, the kids still aren't saying, you're not driving towards what we're going at for that week, let's add you on for the following week. Maybe Raymond's like, oh, I did it, great, let's move you on. But you know what? Maybe in my own observations, I saw Papillon didn't meet something. I'm gonna actually add her instead to the, because it's based on all of our own like individual observations, right? Too, like, you know what? Like, we didn't see them on Monday, but I noticed that in my observations, they're not actually missing the mark on this. Let's add them instead to our walkthrough.
And also that student work that we bring,
Yeah.
physical work, we can use that in one-to-ones.
Yeah.
as well. So what it,
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing to the Thursday idea, and I guess this goes into PD and CPT systems, but one thing that I wanted to bring up there was, it's like the reality is we're gonna need to use Tuesday CPTs for school-wide focus area. If we keep the Tuesday CPT, like CPT is going to need to be used for school-wide focus area, because we cannot reliably use school-wide focus area during Thursday PD. There's just too much other stuff that gets taken up during Thursday PD. So then that would also allow us for whatever the CPT day is where we do the school-wide focus area to also start determining like opportunities for differentiation. Like whatever, like week one school-wide focus area, like Land's probably not gonna need it,
Yeah.
but is there gonna be a group of teachers who aren't going to need it, who either can model during that session or have a differentiated elevated session or be excused from it? And that will also give us time to like prepare if we do need to do differentiated sessions, give them time to prepare if we are asking them to like model or record something. So it's not like a scramble of, oh, we're doing this PD, like, does everybody need to go to it? Because then it either ends up being, yes, everybody needs to go to it, or we can just excuse Lan and Lucy and whoever else we decide to excuse, but then that would also give us the hard data of like, we know where we're planning to go. Like, do we have people who have truly already mastered that who we can also leverage?
I do agree that Tuesday CPT, we can get like content directions, but if we're doing the school-wide focus only on Tuesday, like we're missing the mark for that. Like it needs to happen for the week prior for the upcoming week.
Yeah, I think I think we just need to get clear on our SSM because it's not reliably going to be able to happen on Thursdays, because Thursday, we either have Flex Thursdays, Network PD, all staff, or just other stuff that has to happen on Thursdays.
So I'm gonna put continue on school-wide focus as like our PD SSM doc, and then I'm going to put start as like, we look at it as an ILT and we plan out
I mean, it could
minimum-
be Monday CPT. Could be Monday CPT instead,
we have SSM.
but, oh yeah.
Plan out to, because we did say we want to keep that one like it. We plan out minimum 2 months ahead of time, but I think as an ILT, we could plan out an entire
I
semester.
think we can plan out like
Yeah.
an anticipated SSM, because I think it's easier to shift if we've got the anticipation of like where the next 3 to 4 months are going to go.
The real question mark there is like, what are we going to get in school leader, not school leader central? In the content we can, it's like, you have 2 weeks
I
to
do
roll this out to your
know-
teachers.
I think they've gotten better about that. Like I know that the ML team like very intentionally told us at the start of this
That's a
year,
different
but
They-
I
They're
know it's been
organized.
getting better. But I know we also kind of know the beats of where like the big things come, like CPU, like where can we anticipate those things
Conferences, like-
coming, conferences. And so like I plugged in like conferences, NWEA, SBAC, all of that training when I made the SSM at the start of the school year, and I don't think we moved any of those because they were there.
What would be really helpful is like something I used to do with the IAC team was like we would set goals by like end of the month of like where do we want our teachers to be, and it's like we finish that goal early that month, like great, like we have flexibility to like do something else, but it could be like by end of September every teacher like make sure they snap the key point, so
Yeah.
that we can easily hit that within 2 weeks, and then like potentially loop back to it if we need to, or like loop back to other skills, but like having a more like big plans, like already preset for the month. So like by the end of October, we want this. By the end of, one thing to just also consider, like for IAC specifically, like a lot of our paras are gone by the time CPT starts. So kind of want to think through like what could the school-wide focus and support look like for them.
Or would we extend their hours if we do an?
That needs to be a conversation outside of this portion of the meeting. I hear you. The answer is we can't. I do want to keep this moving, but here from our like meeting cadence and structures, we have Sam's love Mondays and Thursdays. Keep doing what we're doing during those times, extending some time on Monday, getting a little bit more specific about how we're spending that time on Monday and Thursday. One thing we didn't talk about at all, which is like a non-negotiable, is lesson plan feedback. But I want to loop us back to our not our number one goal, but the first goal that I listed, which is around sustainable ILT structures. We are going to get to that though in part 2 of this meeting. So we're going to put a little pin in it, but know that it's coming because lesson plan feedback is a part of part 2 of our meeting for vision planning. Let's move us along though to school-wide focus. And I want us to think, as we think about school-wide focus, literally just the systems around it. So like you already named, like we want to start having like end of month goals on our SSM. So teachers know like by the end of September, by the end of November, what are they doing? Plan out anticipated SSM for like what PDs look like. Oh, sorry, I put that on the wrong one. That goes on the next. But for school-wide focus specifically, what do we want to continue, stop, or start? And again, I encourage you to go back to the school-wide focus pre-work here. What do we want to continue in school-wide focus? 5 minutes, start.
I mean, I like that when we had the school-wide focus, it was really targeted and teachers knew what it was and we were able to like immediately follow up with student responses, whether it's an interview, whatever it was. I kind of like the interviews, it was kind of fun. It was fun to hear what children had to say.
What systems were in place for teachers knew what it was?
Teachers knew what it was. I think there was expectations set in the launcher of like what goals what key points they had to hit in terms of meeting that school-wide focus. So kind of like what teachers teach kids, like we did that to staff of like, okay, in order for us to be successful with students stating the understanding what the lesson objective is, these are the things you need to do in order to be successful. Say it throughout your lesson, ask kids in the moment, that way it's not a surprise to anybody. And then when we're able to collect the data, like kids knew what we're talking about. It wasn't out of the blue of like, why are you talking to me? They actually, eventually they were like, pick me, I want to talk to you today. I want to talk to you, let me tell you what I learned today. So I think that was really nice.
And then NWA.
Yeah.
I think teachers felt accountable to it too, because we shared out the data via email and then in staff meeting to like give the full, and they saw us coming into the classroom to interview students and we like shared what students actually said. So we like gave examples and non-examples, like they were held accountable because they actually saw us coming in and got feedback through those emails and staff meeting slides of like, this is where we are, this is where we need to be, like, and the quick feedback of like, this is what you must do to get there. So I think teachers felt successful, and then the teachers who weren't successful when we interviewed their students got to see exemplary responses, so they kind of knew what we meant with what we were looking for.
Definitely want to continue like having teachers actually either read or like watch the student responses, because I think it is powerful to like, hey, those are your kids. We didn't prompt them, we just asked them what they did.
Yeah.
And this is what they could deliver on.
But I agree with what everyone said too. Like it's that level of investment from teachers that it was funny because they're like, oh God, what do they say? Make me proud kind of moment. Because they're like, you knew they worked towards it. And you knew they were asking kids like in class, like, what did you learn, or explain this to me? So it was interesting to see like, okay, yeah, a good job. They did exactly what we talked about in class today when they would read the prompts or the answers that kids gave.
What do we want to start doing with school-wide focus that we haven't yet done?
And you build SSM that's actually buildable. So like goals that, like I know what Vlad was mentioning, like by the end of this month, but like what are attainable goals from the beginning of the school year, building on throughout the entire school year. So by the end of the whole school year, like we've given all of, or we've had a focus on different skills that create essentially a master teacher by the end of it if we are successful. And kids are able to continuously build on these skills, and it's not just every once in a while, hey, let's learn about this. And it doesn't feel like it's a last minute thing just to do versus like it's intentional that we're building these skills throughout.
It's backwards planned. It's like we do with everything in
Yeah.
education.
I think we need to have aligned PD for the school-wide focus area so that teacher is like, because I think the school-wide focus area we had that we really went after those weeks was like one that you could read and internalize and do, but not every school-wide focus area is going to be like that. So we definitely do need PDs, I think, like aligned around the See It, Name It, Do It. Where teachers can see a high quality example, have time to plan with support, and have time to practice before they actually execute it in front of their students,
I agree.
with the opportunity for differentiation.
What would you guys think about, I feel like actually incorporate like Monday lunch and have like a student facing component of it? Of like, hey, our focus this week is to make sure, like, like
Yeah.
why our lesson is important to us.
Yeah.
How can I find that if I'm in so-and-so's class? I think teachers would appreciate putting like some ownership on students, so it's not just them, but they also now have a positive model of, oh, this is what my students should be able to answer.
Yeah.
Kind of like during lunchtime, like your teachers are going to be looking for this and that to give you core value rockets. Say your teachers are going.
Yeah.
It's like we're telling teachers like this is what you should be doing. I love that. It always should come to lunch, like when we're previewing it with kids.
Add to it.
Yes, please. I have a thought, but go.
I mentioned this like a couple of weeks ago, but I think it would be really cool to actually like just incorporate a clip chart into the school-wide focus and literally say that the only way you flip up, unless you flip down and you need to flip back up to fix something, is by demonstrating the school-wide focus.
That just made me remember something
Landing
we talked
trackers.
about during our student culture was landing trackers type area.
The Scorpio brain.
Mhm.
Year of the monkey. Year of the-
The
We're
year
in
of the
sync right
monkey,
now.
Scorpios.
What I'm hearing is like Thursday PD time for school-wide focus is like fresh. And I think what we're going to need to do is like on those Thursdays where it's like we can't do it, it's like that actually just becomes the Tuesday thing where we do have everyone say, and it's like we are gonna pay them those 30 extra minutes because everyone needs this development. And what we're not going to do is like somebody's like, you need to roll this out to your teachers, and we're gonna like take that away from our sacred Thursday time.
Okay, so Thursday is the white focus area, Tuesday CBT is all the other stuff. Yes.
Yes, except when we don't have all the other stuff, and then we can get more specific. So like, for example, when I see that,
Well, so that's where can I give an example of what I'm thinking of? So like when we roll out our next ML, like when we move from speaking to listening lessons, and we need to do the PD on teachers for how to teach the listening lesson, that would be a Tuesday CPT.
I'm thinking that way, like we truly preserve like school-wide focus is like a school-wide. Yes, Socrates and Elbow, you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think it might be helpful like if we tie it into our staff meeting specifically, like
It's like data.
It is part of the staff
Yes.
meeting, it's not a separate meeting.
but also like it helps us keep it bite-sized, like we can go over,
Yeah.
I don't know, let's say 30 minutes, but like in 30 minutes, like if we have a bite-sized, very clear, this is what the focus is for this upcoming week. You don't have to have like an hour-long class on it. It's just like, this is quick. This is what we're looking for. This is how you get it.
Stop having random meetings on Thursday.
Sorry, Natalie.
No, I mean, it's just, we can find better ways to use our time in.
Yeah.
Just what we've always done. Just because we've always done it doesn't mean it's the best. And when we were teachers, we never did that on Thursdays. It was always school.
Yeah.
And then the PD was aligned to that. And then it
Yeah.
broke out into your content
Yep.
teams.
How does it make sense?
And then
Yeah.
year two, Zach had to lead off. But year one, Zach got developed. It's like, y'all, feeling good. It's also 6:12, so we are going to like, in 5 minutes, whatever we can continue, stop and start in PD CPT systems. And then very quickly, just on this ILT action cycle, put down like, what do we think needs to happen for ILT? Okay. PD and CPT systems, we've already kind of started this. Let's take 5 minutes to iron out any other little details. Continue. Is Tuesday the day?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
rationale behind that was Mondays, we don't have school every time. Or every week, and then, yeah, exactly, and it's like prime one-to-one time for new teachers. And then we chose Tuesday because Wednesday was the module launch meeting. And I don't know if those are continuing or as a network, or if we're going to need to do our
I just-
own.
Did that because like they just really fell off the wagon. At the end of the day, what's going to make our teachers successful is if we lead it.
But then we could still preserve like Tuesday, CPT, Wednesday, module launch, if we're leading all of our own. It
It's
just
like, yeah.
It just gets
flex
tricky
day.
when you have 3 modules that all start at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tuesday is the CPT day.
Yeah.
Wednesday is module. Well, I guess then that gives us flexibility too of like, I meet with my 1 third grade teacher on Monday and 1 third grade teacher on Wednesday, so we could choose which day we want to come back
Yes,
to
we
do
think
our
also,
module meeting.
we have like a STEAM teacher next year. Scandalous. And like other folks, like who can we help us like for dismissal coverage? Like how could we, so I'm thinking like 3 to 5 or 3 to 4:30, whatever. Like even if we had a 45-minute individual one-on-one launch with someone, that's better than not having.
Yeah.
Right.
We did
can get
2
2.
years ago. 2 years ago, we
2 at once.
were 2 years ago. Our ECCs did not have designated arrival and dismissal duties. And then we used one of the PE teachers too, and they provided arrival and dismissal coverage for every teacher once a week. And so then it was like we could start meeting with teachers earlier, or it was like extra planning time for them. So if we could bring back something like that. And I remember we did Upper Hume got a morning and dismissal coverage. And then I think with lower grades, we might have worked out a system where one of them could just leave dismissal each day. And then there were certain teachers who got arrival coverage. And certain teachers who got dismissal coverage because they were late most mornings. So we didn't want their arrival coverage. They just turned into you're arriving late every day. But I think that was something teachers really appreciated because even though it was only once a week, they knew like that's my day where I can make my copies when no one else is in there. My coach can meet with me earlier. So if we can work that out again next year. And I think you really only need 2, maybe 3 people to cover it. And then there are some people who don't get it, like the DK teachers don't get it.
They have time.
The 5th grade self-contained teacher didn't get it because they have release time that other teachers don't get. So like our STEM teachers who have a learning lab cohort will not get it because they'll get a day of planning time when they have learning, when they have enrichment.
And I agree. I think it seems like something so little, but I think teachers really appreciate it, even if that extra 30 minutes like was to do
I
something.
I think the only way to make that happen is tapping into quite a bit more of like care support and specialist support and coverage.
Something I'm wondering about, I don't know if we have the flexibility for, but could we potentially have slightly more flexible start times for paras? Like, there are definitely like members of the Matsubier team that need to be here at 7 because that's when some of our friends get dropped off. There's also other paras that they don't need to support their arrival. Older students are fully independent to get to class. So like, we theoretically could get here at 7:30 and it would not impact their day or students' day. But that would allow them to have like extra planning time at the end of the day and might be able to stay for PE.
Because then people will be like, I want those kids, I wanna come in at 7:30, I don't wanna support this grade anymore. Why do you get it? Your kids are third and fourth graders, they're independent, I wanna be third and fourth grade, I'm not doing TK and kinder anymore.
That does also potentially open up if you're saying like not the entirety of the months of your team needs to be in 2:04 in the morning, like is there one or two who could, because what we did was
That's
it
what I'm
was
hearing. It's
it
like, how are
was
we using
arrival,
their-
lunch, and breakfast, so they got a solid hour. And then for our teachers who got the
An hour?
dismissal covered, yeah, because they got 7 to 8, they got an out. It was arrival, lunch, and breakfast was covered. And then they came back to start community meeting. And so it was a solid hour for the teachers who got morning coverage, and then it worked out
To
about
be
the
honest,
same.
there's no reason why we can't make that happen.
And so then if there is either maybe they do it on a rotating basis, or maybe there is one parent who does that. And then
Mild mod can support with that. Mod severe is providing coverage already. So could also be mild mod starts later, mod severe starts earlier. Mod severe is vastly different goals and objectives where
We're getting into a rabbit hole that is outside of vision.
yeah.
Or vision planning.
to be continued.
To be continued, okay. I feel like we can very quickly, we don't need 10 to 15 minutes to action cycle calendar. So on Mondays during school, we are walking, so walk through. We're just gonna do high level right now. During school Thursday, we have the student work analysis.
I think Tuesday and Wednesday during school student work collection.
Student, I'm gonna call it evidence.
Yeah.
Collection. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it could also be the voice. Or video.
Yeah. Can you do student
Like when we're-
evidence
if we're doing-
slash video collection?
In the videos.
Effective reporting.
The other thing, under Thursday, identifying focus teachers for the following week.
I'm gonna put Monday like admin tasks.
Yeah.
Like the routine things. On Thursday after school, we're going to put school-wide focus PD and staff meeting. Tuesday after school, CPTs / randos. Wednesday,
Module launch.
yeah, unit module launch. I'm gonna make it an executive decision. And see what your reaction is. We're going to excuse all teachers from participating in regionally led unit and module launches
Yeah.
because they're ineffective.
Agree.
But my expectation is that you and me, because I'm taking all of STEM next year, we lead them
Can
individually with
we-
teachers.
Collaborate on how to better run a module launch meeting, because these structures that were presented at the beginning of this year were part of what created the
Yes.
So we need to design our own module launch meeting system.
Yeah, I mean,
structure, protocol, whatever. it's
Yeah.
called.
I do what I did with our internal curriculum. I just do it with Eureka. Oh. You don't have to whisper.
Save the whole.
I think we do. It is more challenging for CKLA.
But I think that's
For
where,
integrated.
again, getting into,
skills.
well, but then
Yeah.
knowledge, we're gonna get that with knowledge too.
That
So
is-
I think, and there is gonna be for K2, the like balance of skills and knowledge, and knowing that like the standards covered in knowledge are also the ones where students are like lacking. So I think we just need to refine what those systems, because even the stuff from Amplify is not very good.
Yeah.
And it drives more towards like high level, can you teach the unit versus like standard content.
We might. Today specifically has been so bad on allergies.
Yeah.
We might have to revisit this ILT,
Mhm.
like, I'm saying ILT is like, yo, okay, yo. We might have to revisit this during school year launch when they roll out a new
Yeah,
batch
Yeah.
of things that we may or may not want to use.
Yeah.
But it is, we we're at an hour now. I want us to close out. In our closing, what was effective about our time in this vision planning, and what can we do next meeting to make it more effective before I tell us what our next steps are? Effective, everything. Just
But I think it's just continuing the alignment that we already have. And just in allowing us to set ourselves up for success for next year.
say more.
I think we have a clearer vision of how we want to approach ILT as a whole and utilizing our time effectively in order to better serve our teachers and our students.
I think this is also the first time as an AP that like I've been a part of the planning process for this. I think in the past it's just been this is our structure, and then this year it was what did you guys do last year? So it was really just this year the systems we had in place were just replicating what we did last year versus like the intentional like is this truly what's serving us best? So I think like ultimately our structures are not changing dramatically. Like we're still having Monday, we're still having Thursday, but there's a more clear purpose.
My vision is like I take all of our notes and like I populate agenda templates that we fine tune.
Yeah.
Because like how we use our time effectively is all in the agenda.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd say could make it more effective.
He's like, I have nothing positive to say about this. Here's how to make it better. Exactly.
I mean, you already covered everything. Positive, man. I think like something I'm curious about that's something like I used to be part of these planning meetings as a teacher, and it was really effective for like very specific content. I would be curious to like have like a reflection from some of the core teachers you select of just like what worked well for you, what do you potentially need for next year? Just like hear the voice of like what would you like, how do you want to see like school-wide focus rolled out to you? And they could give us like a very unrealistic option, or they could actually give us like something outside of the box that we might not see. But it's like not necessarily having a part of these meetings, but like having a reflection or like asking.
I hear what you're saying. I'm wondering like how do we, because the way to get real feedback and real actionable feedback is how you word the questions. And like how do we word the questions to like actually get that's going to like be for the greater good and not like a comment box that is full of complaints.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I would pick like very specific teachers. Like Raymond is potentially a good example of actually would give us good feedback, I think.
However, he does, he's like, I don't know what school focus is, but I'm here for it. Like he doesn't know like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teacher. I love it to incorporate teacher voice into
But I think you could also ask like
receiving.
what are some things you would like to receive PD around as well, because then that can like show us like, because we obviously have a different perspective, but like maybe there is something that like we think the teacher's already doing pretty well, but they actually are saying like, hey, I want more development around this, and we're like, oh, we thought you were fine there, but like maybe you do actually need more development there.
Can I ask a question of each of you? In your end of year eval combos, with your like not returning, but like more veteran, higher performing teachers, ask that question. To feel like, to make them feel like also they have more agency over their development next year. It's like, what do you want to be developed in next year? That would also help us with differentiation for our like 3.0 teachers, which we have like 3 of, but
Like one idea for this, but what if we put it into our staff survey? And every week it's like tied to our theme. It's like, what do you want to explore to make you better?
what is something you'd like to learn more about?
Time
I
to
like it.
it would tie to a theme.
I like it if we can like take like similar responses and like weave that into something, but two thoughts here. If we can't respond to all of them, they don't feel heard. And number two, if they're just strong but wrong,
Yeah.
But I think with that, it is like the how you follow up in it. Like if we were to all put something in a feedback survey, like maybe 3 of us would put the same thing and 1 of us would put something different, but then it's just like a follow up in year 1-to-1 of like, hey, you put this in and like I will work with you on this in year 1-to-1, or like actually I hear you on that, but like this is a prerequisite to that. So let's focus on this first, because then it can also help. I think coaching could potentially feel a little more like teachers feel like they have a little more agency in there. Cause that, like, I think back to induction, that was what I loved about induction, where it was like, what do you want to work on? What's an area, a gap you have that you're not working on with your rocket ship coach?
Those
And
were like
I
in-person
love those. I
conversations.
love those projects, but it was like, sometimes we get so into the cycle of like, here's what's on our 1-to-1 agenda. Like I got to get through the 1-to-1. We've only got 45 minutes, but I think if we have that place, for me at least, it would hold me accountable to it. Like, hey, you put this in the feedback survey. Let's talk more about it. Like, let me understand where you're coming from, or I can read it and be like, oh, that's easy. We can spend 5 minutes talking about that in our 1-to-1.
I like it.
And then it
Right.
creates that where then it does become a regular point of conversation as a 1-to-1.
I do think though, like there's a lot of merit in like asking someone face to face, like
Yeah.
giving them the time to like speak to what would you like your development to look like next year, or like what would you like to learn more about in your development?
I
Yeah.
agree, because it's showing them like I'm genuinely invested in
Like a
your
conversation.
growth. Yeah.
Is going to, I think, get us more than the survey.
I think
I
just-
love surveys, but that's not going to get us on what they really care about.
I think something that could also lead us to would be like on Tuesdays where we don't have like network things we need to do. I think like we do have a huge need for just like, I always come back to building content knowledge, but like building content knowledge, or like how many of our teachers actually have read about the science of reading? Like, are there principles of like the design of Common Core math standards? And like that I think could give us opportunity for teachers to feel more agency of like, we all have things in education that we're passionate about. So like, can we create opportunities in Tuesday CPTs, like maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months, where it's like, Vlad is going to lead a session about this, Zach is going to lead a session about this, Kat's gonna lead a session about this, I'm gonna lead a session about this. Choose your own adventure. Which one do you want to go to? Which one do you want to learn more about? And it does put a little bit more on us to like find those and design them and create them. But like
They
if
don't
it's
take
things,
that much time.
if it's things we're passionate about too,
Yeah.
like, and we're also like giving teachers the opportunity to say like, hey, this is something I'm interested in learning more about. Like,
I'm even thinking like next year, us having like TLAC clinics on Tuesday with a very specific TLAC skill.
yeah,
That maybe one that we are like particularly good at. Dance moves over here.
self-interrupt.
Love that. It's probably my favorite. Okay, well, thanks y'all. We're gonna see what I did there. We're gonna stop in here. But please by Friday, for part 2 of this meeting, which is all about lesson planning, submission, feedback, and teacher development. We have a lot of wins here, y'all, like a lot of wins. We still have some gaps though. Real-time coaching and 1-to-1s. Again, load of wins here in this category. But I think also, I wouldn't say as much gaps as opportunities. And then I think the thing, Dre's already on it.
Starting.
He's like, I have thoughts. I was gonna say, we're actually think we have fewer wins. Well, our biggest win is like dams happen. Since I've been here, we all do dams. We do them all the time because they happen during the month once. The dams are happening. I think it's, but again, that's us as a reactive ILT.
Mhm.
But I think we actually have the most gaps and opportunities in our assessments.
Yeah.
In launch meetings. So, yeah. Again, in the pre-work, set a 10 to 15 minute timer. Do not spend more time than that because your time is too precious to spend more than that, unless you're Drake's, because she has a lot of fields.
But I did my other
About
pre-work in less than 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, I
Okay,
just
it
say, do you have a lot of
It flows,
feelings
it flows. I have lots of
ILTs on 3? No, we need something more 26, 25, 26. Spark your. No, discover your. No.
Discover your smart.
It's spark your discovery. No, it
No,
is
it's discover your spark. We talked about this earlier today.
Spark your joy. Spark the vision. Spark the change. Discover your spark.
Spark the vision, because this was a vision session.
On three. 1, 2, 3. Spark the change. I'm thinking about all the changes.
No, it's just with vision.
This is the vision
Vision setting.
session.
Discover your vision.
Hey, one thing I want to call out is there's not that many stops in all of the feedback. Like we're not making that many changes. It's like refining things, but like there truly are not changes. Or not stops.
There's some things we need. Yeah. That's my push. What is something we really need to stop?
Excuses.
The excuses.
Yeah.
Like I think
And I
we
think
all like the blue in us all
when there's a walkie call and we're like, you gotta go save the day. And we like take that opportunity away from teachers to like build relationships and also just like do their job.
Something I really actually want to do, I'm mindful of that phrase, so like don't assume the worst of it. But I really want to take that first part of the CPI training and actually do it a whole staff. And it's like
De-escalation.
yeah, like but like even just understanding behaviors and things like that, like stop it
Yeah.
before it gets into anything and like don't call it CPI, like put a different label on it.
It's de-escalation.
There is a session that we moved because we needed to make more time, but it is like responding to rocks and boulders. So I think that might be along those lines.
I think it's like 6 modules, and I would truly spread the 6 modules like across weeks.
Yeah.
If I'd wanted to do it, or like spread it across days, because like it's genuinely good reflection that you get to do.
We once did a trauma-informed PD when I was still a teacher, and it was great, but it was incredibly long. It was like a half-day thing. Or something. So I think I agree with